you, Lord.
Then Jesus and the disciples set out for the villages around Caesarea Philippi. On the way, Jesus asked the disciples this question: "Who do people say I am?" They replied, "Some John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others one of the prophets. And you," he went to ask, "who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Messiah." Then Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anyone. Then Jesus began to teach them that the promised one had to suffer much, be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, be put to death, and rise on the third day. Jesus said these things quite openly. Peter then took him aside and began to remonstrate with him. At this, Jesus turned around and eyeing his disciples, reprimanded Peter, "Get out of my sight, you Satan. You are judging by human standards rather than by God's." Jesus summoned the crowd and the disciples and said, "If you wish to come after me, you must deny your very self, take up your cross, and follow in my footsteps. If you would save your life, you will lose it. But if you lose your life for my sake, you will save it." And this is the gospel, good news of our salvation.
Praise the Lord.
By the words of the gospel, may our sins be blotted out.
Amen.
Amen. So we gather on this Saturday afternoon, and the day after that event that we remembered yesterday, and that's the reason why in the bulletin there's that little editorial that was in the Sun Sentinel in regards to the events of 9/11/01. And for those of us who experienced it, it doesn't seem like it's that long ago. But the interesting thing at the beginning of that editorial, it said that the young men and women who were in their first year of high school didn't live through that event. So it's something that was a horrific day in our country, in our society, and the manner in which people pulled together. But it's something that we can't forget. And tonight in the prayers of the faithful, one of the prayers that's included is asking for people who have revenge in their hearts to open them up to the presence of God. And the interesting thing, obviously, is all of us know, is that these events occurred because they were people of God. Anyway. So we gather tonight, and as we listen to the readings, in that first reading where we see an image of Jesus through the eyes of Isaiah, and part of what we heard in the first reading tonight, we also hear part in the first reading on Palm Sunday, right? Where that event of Jesus entering Jerusalem and being honored by the crowd, and within 5 days, the one who was honored was going to be put to death. Right? But one of the things that I want you to focus on tonight with me, when we say the creed, right, we say we believe in Jesus, who was born, who suffered, who died, and who was raised, who rose from the dead. We don't talk about what this Jesus did. And what Jesus did is what each one of us is called to do. Right? To be a living witness to God's love within each one of us today. We focus sometimes too much on, for example, the movie, The Passion of the Christ. I don't know how many of you saw it. The one that was the Mel Gibson extravaganza. I didn't see it. I didn't see it because that's not my image of what I see Jesus as. And yet there are people that the only image they see is that image of the suffering Christ. But we can't focus in on just the suffering. All of us had a birthday, the year we were born, and the year that we'll die. And maybe some of us don't want to think about that. But it's a reality. When we go to a cemetery and you see John Smith, 1920, Malign, 2005. What's the most important thing on that tombstone? The most important thing is the line between the year we were born and the year we died. What did we do with the life given to us? Did we whittle it away? Did we become everything we thought we would? Did we depend too much on what we got, what we accumulated? Or can we really say that we try to be the best person we could be each day? Obviously, none of us are perfect, although some people think they are. Right. But that's the point. The reading from St. James that Brother John read, and by the way, we need people to volunteer to do readings. It's not us only up here. So that sheet's got to be filled. And it's not a hard thing to do. Okay? It's not difficult to read. But I'd like you to really think about it and pray about this. This is a wonderful thing for you to do. In that reading from the letter of St. James, faith without works is dead. You could go to Mass 24 hours a day. You could have the words of the Bible piped into your home continuously on a continuous disc. But if all we do is listen to God's word and not put it into practice, we just haven't gotten it. Jesus made sure that in his lifetime, he did exactly what he came here to do. And if that meant that he had to suffer and die, yes. But the life of Jesus is what we're asked to emulate, what we're asked to follow. To be able to go among people who have so much less than we do, be it materially, spiritually, physically, whatever, and to really try to help other people. This is what Jesus was all about. Who do people say I am? Well, a loaded question for his disciples. Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, or one of the prophets. And who do you say I am? That's the question in the bulletin this week. Who do you say Jesus is? The answer you give to that, my dear friends, is how we're going to be able to live, how we're going to continue to live our lives. And the awesome thing about that question is, I remember I'm not an Old Testament person. I'm focusing mainly on the New Testament. But there's one point in the Old Testament when Moses gets the law on the mountainside. And he's in conversation with God. Never sees God, but he's in conversation with God. And he actually says to God, these people are going to think I'm crazy. Going down with stone tablets and telling them this is the way they got to live. And as I talk about our Jewish brothers and sisters, don't forget that tomorrow night begins the Jewish High Holy Days. The voice of God says, tell them I am sent you. I am. Without a beginning or without an end. Right? What does Jesus say? Who do people say I am? He's taking the words of God to Moses, and he's taking those words and he's applying them to himself. Peter says, you are the Christ. You are the Son of the living God. Who do you say Jesus is? Pray for me. I pray for you. And may God bless us and keep us. May God's face shine upon us and give us peace, now and always.
Amen.
Amen.